Whenever a person spends time by themselves, alone and away from other people, problems of all kinds begin to surface in his head. Humans tend to think negatively most of the time by nature. Instead of considering how to accomplish his goal, he considers what he would do if it were not accomplished. And because of this kind of harmful mindset, human lives in fear his entire life. If this dread is not fully comprehended with intellect and awareness, it will lead to human vulnerability. How is it possible for someone who has self-doubt to succeed? But if this fear is handled well, it could really end up being his greatest asset. He would have realized that his strength comes from his fear if he had just once trusted in himself. After saying this, the monk fell silent and began to move over the untamed grass while silently focusing on his steps. It was dusk and the woodcutter and monk were making their way through the forest toward the hamlet. The woodcutter was perplexed by the monk's statements and questioned how fear could be a source of strength. Man is weak while in fear? Mahatma, what are you saying that there is strength in fear? He queried the monk when he was unable to contain his curiosity. Man should overcome his fear since it makes him weak. The woodcutter was interrupted by the lion's roar before he could complete his thought. The woodcutter's hair trembled in response to the lion's roar. He tilted his ears up. Every sound coming from the jungle could be heard clearly by him. There, his movements had stopped. He was unable to move at all, since he was aware that even the smallest action could endanger his life. He was still making an effort to manage his breathing even though his heart was thumping quickly. When the threat was no longer present, the monk began reciting, "Every cell in your body was awakened just now when you were terrified." The monk remarked, "The fear in your thoughts allowed you to come to your senses since you were focused on even the slightest sound coming from the jungle. You were preoccupied with your thoughts before to hearing the lion's roar. But as soon as you did, all of your ideas vanished and you become fully present in the moment. Your body has talents that you may not have personally encountered in your life up to this point. When a dog pursues you, you move considerably more quickly than you would normally. You won't be able to run as quickly in front of a dog in everyday life. The only time our body's strength or perhaps aptitude is apparent is when our mind is terrified. Both our brain and our body functions at their best under a stressful circumstances. By frightening you, you can accomplish tasks that you would otherwise be unable to complete. All of your senses become completely engaged whenever fear is present. As the dread passes, you enter a stage of lethargy. Your hearing and vision get sharper, you become completely alert, and your activity level increases. Your senses return to a state of rest when you fall asleep. The speed of your memorization a day before the examination is much faster than your normal memorization ability. The monk continued to address the woodcutter. You remember what you have remembered only once, at the time of examination, and you know that all this is due to fear of examination. Therefore, rather than trying to get rid of a fear, a person should consider how to channel it into strength. The opposites of light and dark are similar to the opposite of happiness and sorrow. In a similar vein, power and terror are two sides of the same coin. Sadness and happiness go hand in hand, just as darkness cannot exist without light. Strength is also useless in the absence of fear. The monk's knowledge really pleased the woodcutter. He bowed at his feet and asked him, "Mahatma, darkness can be filled with light by lighting a lamp. But tell me some solution to convert your fear into strength." The monk responded, "There are two kinds of dread. First, terror of the mind, then fear of the body. Suppose you have to pass through the forest and all of a sudden you discover that the thought of a lion has entered your mind." The monk began to explain to the woodcutter, "The lion hasn't appeared in front of you yet, and you haven't heard it roar. There is no doubt there is a lion in the jungle, but just the thought of the lion made you fearful. Your every move will now be accomplished by the terror. Your constant thought will be that a lion might show up. This lion is not actually in front of you right now. Rather, it is something from your imagined future. Similar to this, someone who is preoccupied with the thoughts about the past and the future suffers from mental fear. This irony makes it so that mental terror influences every choice he makes in life. Because of this, the majority of people do not have complete faith in their judgment, and these choices, or those that are made reluctantly, prevent human work from being completed. However, it is also true that a person only finishes their preparation because of mental fear. You won't take any action to defend yourself from the lion if the concept of lion does not cross your head. However, if you see a lion, you will undoubtedly adopt a strategy to defend yourself. Because of this, having mental terror is not only useful but also increases your sense of security. However, the issue arises when you are unable to act, even when you would like to, but still have mental fear. For instance, some people are constantly worried that they might get a disease, have an accident, or be defrauded. However, he makes no mention of any of these instances. They do not possess it. Accidents will occur if they have to. Illness will undoubtedly occur if it has to. It is beyond of his control if a person becomes ill while eating healthfully and maintaining a regular daily schedule. He did his best as that was his responsibility. What does that leave anyone with? His mind continues to be fueled by those things that are out of his reach, and this mental terror eventually leads to his demise as well as anxiety. Someone who believes that thorns are just to hurt forgets that they are also to serve to safeguard the flower. Similar to this, a knowledgeable person may make use of anything, whereas an ignorant person, because of his ignorance, discards even things that might be beneficial to him. An uneducated guy keeps throwing stone at others, but a wise man can construct a palace out of it. There are some guidelines and some options available to someone who needs to transform their mental dread into strength. To start, we might observe our thoughts. The majority of our ideas are imagined if we were to monitor them in our daily lives. And for that reason, the terror that results from those ideas is equally unfounded. People who think excessively start thinking about pointless things when they run out of things to think, which bothers not only them but also their family and other relatives. Because of this, person who think a lot should be aware of which thoughts are valuable and which are useless among all the ones that come to mind. Only when you think closely about the meaningful thoughts and continue to eliminate the meaningless ones, will you be able to resolve your issues and confusion. Facing mental fear is another strategy for getting over. It does not imply that you approach the lion and fight it. Rather, it implies that you enter the forest in total safety. You cannot stay at home out of dread of the lion if going in the forest is absolutely vital. Similar to this, there are numerous anxieties in daily life, including worries of being examined, of failing to accomplish a goal, of lying, of being exposed as a lie, of hurting loved ones, and of being in an accident. But once these challenges are overcome through time, these anxieties disappear from life. They will follow you around for the rest of your life if you try to avoid them. You can only overcome these if you confront them. Even speaking candidly in front of others makes some people uncomfortable. Such individuals out to approach strangers. His fear will lessen as he converses with more individuals. Accepting your fate is the third approach to turn the mental fear into strength. Many people find it difficult to live with their worries. He will strongly deny that he is scared of anything if you ask him what he is terrified of. But to gain favors with others, they must pay a high price for these falsehoods. He won't be able to overcome his fear for the rest of his life if he does not learn to embrace it. It is sage to acknowledge your fear for this reason. You don't need to avoid people or hold back if you are afraid of anything. Every person in this world has some sort of fear, and you will discover that as soon as you acknowledge your fear, it starts to fade. Additionally, your fear grows stronger the more you attempt to disguise it. All of these techniques can help you overcome your mental anxiety, but other techniques must be used to overcome your physical fear. Understand what bodily terror is first. Imagine you are walking through a jungle when all of a sudden a lion arrives in your path. You never imagined a lion could approach you, but when one does, all of your bodily functions become relaxed, your breathing pauses, your brain shuts down, and your heart begins to beat more quickly. Because of this, when something unimaginable occurs to us, our bodies experiences terror, which is known as physical fear. There are remedies for this situation and techniques to get over physical fear. Possessing self-control is the first step toward a solution. When a person experiences beyond comprehension, he first loses control, and along with the loss of control, his brain shuts down. And as a result, thinking and comprehension likewise come to an end. Because our body only functions as our brain orders it to. If your brain's capacity for thought and comprehension declines, so too does your body. Because of this, a person's brain functions normally if they can maintain self-control under pressure. And by making the appropriate choice, he can leave the circumstances right now. The fact that anything can happen in life is another way to grasp this. Life is really remarkable. It rarely proceeds according to our expectations. But anything is possible, and this is the beauty of life. You will lose interest in life if you know what you will be capable of in 10 years from now. However, if life continues to be a mystifying book, then you will never grow weary of it. You will keep being surprised by your life. Consequently, be aware that anything can occur in life. Make no assumptions about anything since it can happen beyond your wildest dreams. The monk concluded by saying, with these methods, you can overcome your mental and physical fear and live a life full of happiness. So tell us in the comment sections how you like the story. Buddies, if you enjoyed it, kindly subscribe to the channel and click the notification button.